My wife came back from her weekend retreat talking about emotional labor and financial redistribution like she discovered fire. I was in the kitchen making dinner when she walked through the door with this look in her eyes, the kind you see on people who just joined a cult and can't wait to convert everyone else. "We need to talk," she announced, dropping her overnight bag like it contained revolutionary manifestos. Which, knowing her weekend companions, it probably did. I kept stirring the pasta sauce. "How was your girl's weekend?" It was enlightening. She positioned herself across from me, arms crossed. "I learned some things about our relationship dynamic that we need to address. Here we go." I turned down the heat and gave her my attention. "Enlighten me." Women still do most of the emotional labor in relationships. We take all the risks. We're expected to look good, act right, and care for others, unpaid. Her voice had that rehearsed quality, like she'd been practicing this speech in the car. I raised an eyebrow. "Risks?" "Yes, risks. Pregnancy, career sacrifices, societal expectations. Meanwhile, men benefit from our unpaid labor." She was warming up now, pacing slightly. "And society expects us to maintain ourselves. Hair, nails, skincare, fitness. Do you know how much that costs?" I almost laughed. "Last month, she spent more at the spa than I spend on groceries. I'm aware of your maintenance costs. I pay for most of them. That's not the point." She waved dismissively. "The point is redistribution. If I'm keeping my money while you pay for things, that's not gold digging. It's compensation." Now I did laugh. Short and sharp. Compensation for what exactly? For centuries of oppression. For doing emotional work you don't even recognize. Her eyes lit up with the fervor of someone who'd found their calling. "I've been thinking about our finances, and I want to implement some changes." I turned off the stove completely. This conversation clearly needed my full attention. "What kind of changes?" She pulled out her phone, swiping to what looked like notes. "First, my salary stays mine. It's compensation for the emotional labor I provide in this relationship." "Your emotional labor." I repeated the phrase slowly, testing how ridiculous it sounded. "Yes, managing our social calendar, remembering birthdays, maintaining relationships with your family, creating a warm home environment, all unpaid work that benefits you." I leaned against the counter. "And my salary? Covers household expenses, mortgage, utilities, groceries, joint activities." She was reading directly from her phone now. "It's about evening the playing field." Evening the playing field. Another slow repeat. "So let me understand this correctly. You want to keep your entire paycheck while I cover all our living expenses?" "It's not about what I want. It's about what's fair." She looked up from her phone with that righteous expression. "Women have been subsidizing men's lives for generations. This is just correcting the imbalance." I nodded thoughtfully. "And if I disagree with this redistribution plan?" Her expression hardened. "Then you're part of the problem. You're perpetuating patriarchal systems that keep women financially dependent." The audacity was almost impressive. She wanted financial independence funded entirely by me. "So independence means I pay for everything while you keep everything?" "You're oversimplifying it." She put her phone away, clearly frustrated that I wasn't immediately embracing her enlightenment. "This is about recognizing value. My emotional contributions have value." "They do," I agreed. "Just like my financial contributions have value." "That's different. You get a salary for your work. I don't get paid for managing our relationship, for caring about your mother's birthday, for making sure we have a functioning household." I watched her face as she spoke. This wasn't just weekend workshop nonsense. She genuinely believed she'd uncovered some fundamental injustice. "So caring about my mother's birthday is now billable hours?" "Don't be sarcastic. This is serious." "You're right. It is serious." I moved closer, studying her expression. "You're proposing that I financially support our entire lifestyle while you maintain complete control over your income. And you're framing this as feminism." "It's not framing. It is feminism. It's recognizing that women's contributions to relationships are undervalued and uncompensated." "Undervalued by whom?" "I appreciate everything you do. Appreciation doesn't pay bills or build retirement funds." She was getting agitated now. "Look, either you understand that relationships need to evolve or you don't. Either you're willing to be part of the solution or you're part of the problem." There it was, the ultimatum disguised as enlightenment. I could see where this weekend had led her. Some guru had convinced a room full of women that their relationships were elaborate financial scams, and they'd eaten it up. I need time to process this, I said finally. Process what? Basic fairness. Process the fact that my wife just came home and informed me that our marriage is now a business arrangement where I'm the sole investor and you're the beneficiary. I kept my voice level, but I could feel something shifting inside me. Process how someone who claims to want independence just proposed a plan that makes her more dependent than ever. She stepped back like I'd slapped her. That's not what this is, isn't it? You want me to assume all financial risk while you assume none. You want credit for emotional labor while dismissing my financial labor. You want independence funded by dependence. I paused, letting that sink in. That's not feminism. That's something else entirely. You don't get it. Her voice was rising. Women take all the risks in relationships. We sacrifice careers. We sacrifice bodies. We sacrifice time. Men just show up and pay some bills. Just show up and pay some bills. I repeated it one more time, tasting the dismissal. Interesting perspective. The kitchen fell silent except for the bubbling pasta water I'd forgotten to turn off. She was looking at me like I was supposed to argue, supposed to defend myself, supposed to convince her that my contributions mattered too. Instead, I reached over and turned off the burner. You know what? I said, my voice calmer than I felt. You're absolutely right about one thing. Women do take risks in relationships. Her expression softened slightly, thinking she'd won. But you're wrong about men just showing up. See, I've been showing up for 8 years. Showing up to work every day to fund the life you want to live. Showing up to fix things when they break. Showing up to handle every financial stress so you don't have to. I met her eyes directly. But if you think that's not enough, if you think I should also show up to fund your complete financial independence while you contribute nothing to our shared expenses, then maybe we need to discuss what real risk looks like. She blinked, uncertainty creeping into her expression. What do you mean? I mean, maybe it's time to show you what it looks like when someone who just pays bills stops showing up entirely. The confidence drained from her face. You're being dramatic. Am I? You want to talk about risk and independence? Let's explore that. She spent the next 2 days acting like our conversation never happened, but I could see her wheels turning. She'd glance at me during dinner like she was calculating something, then look away when I caught her. On Wednesday evening, she approached me with a folder. I've put together a formal proposal, she announced, setting it on the coffee table between us like a business contract. I looked at the folder but didn't touch it. A proposal. A fair redistribution of financial responsibilities that reflects our actual contributions to this relationship. She sat across from me, back straight, like she was about to pitch investors. I spent considerable time researching equitable relationship models. Researching. I leaned back in my chair. Where exactly does one research equitable relationship models? Online communities of progressive women who successfully restructured their partnerships. She opened the folder and pulled out printed pages. There are thousands of women implementing these changes. I picked up the first page. It was formatted like a business proposal, complete with bullet points and financial projections. The header read, Relationship Equity Plan, Phase 1 Implementation. Phase 1. I looked up at her. We need to approach this systematically. She was using her professional voice now, the one she used with clients. Phase 1 addresses immediate financial imbalances. Your salary covers mortgage, utilities, groceries, insurance, car payments, and all joint expenses. I flipped to the next page. And your salary? Remains mine. It covers my personal investments, skincare, fitness, wardrobe maintenance, professional development, and building my personal savings. She pointed to a chart she'd created. Look at the breakdown. Women spend significantly more on appearance maintenance than men. It's basically a career requirement. The numbers were impressive in their audacity. She'd calculated that her maintenance costs justified keeping her entire paycheck while I funded everything else. You spend $400 a month on skincare alone. Exactly. And that's conservative. Add hair appointments, nail maintenance, gym membership, wardrobe updates for professional settings. It adds up quickly. She leaned forward earnestly. Society expects women to maintain certain standards. That has real financial impact. Society expects men to maintain certain standards too, like paying for everything, apparently. She ignored my tone. This isn't about gender roles. It's about recognizing that women's financial burdens are different from men's. I continued reading. Phase 2 involved me taking on additional household management tasks while she focused on personal growth. Phase 3 was something called wealth building through strategic female investment. Strategic female investment? Women are better investors than men. More research-focused, less impulsive. She pulled out another sheet. If I control my income entirely, I can build wealth more efficiently than if it gets absorbed into general household expenses. Build wealth for whom? For us. For our future. But something in her eyes said otherwise. I set the papers down. Let me see if I understand this correctly. I pay for everything we need to live, while you pay for everything you want to have, and somehow this benefits both of us. It benefits both of us because I'll be happier, more fulfilled, and financially empowered. She was getting animated again. Happy wives make happy marriages. And unhappy husbands make what exactly? She paused, like this hadn't occurred to her. Why would you be unhappy? Nothing changes for you except you gain a more confident, self-actualized partner. Nothing changes except I become solely responsible for our survival, while you become solely responsible for your satisfaction. You're being deliberately obtuse. Her voice sharpened. Relationships require investment. I'm asking you to invest in our partnership by recognizing my needs. Your needs. I gestured at the papers. Your needs cost approximately $3,000 monthly above what you contribute to our shared life. That's not how you should look at it. How should I look at it? As supporting your wife's growth and happiness. She was getting frustrated that her presentation wasn't landing. Look, this is happening whether you like it or not. Women are waking up. We're realizing we don't have to accept traditional financial arrangements that benefit men more than women. There it was. The ultimatum dressed up as enlightenment. Whether I like it or not. I'm not asking permission. I'm informing you of how things are going to work going forward. She crossed her arms. You can either be supportive or you can be an obstacle. But I'm not going back to being financially exploited. I almost admired the manipulation. Frame resistance as oppression. Make unreasonable demands sound like basic rights. Then dare me to be the bad guy who won't support his wife's happiness. Financially exploited. I repeated the phrase slowly. By the man who pays your share of everything so you can spend your money however you want. By the man who expects me to contribute equally to expenses while ignoring that women face higher costs for existing in this society. Higher costs you chose. No one forced you to spend $200 on highlights last month. That's exactly the kind of attitude that shows you don't understand female experience. She was getting heated now. You think beauty maintenance is optional? You think professional women can show up looking however they want? I think professional women can budget their beauty maintenance like adults instead of demanding their husbands fund it entirely. Professional women can also choose partners who understand modern relationships instead of clinging to outdated models where women subsidize men's lives. The threat was getting less subtle. Outdated models like both partners contributing to shared expenses. Outdated models like assuming financial contribution is the only contribution that matters. She stood up, pacing now. I manage our social life. I maintain relationships with both our families. I create emotional intimacy. I handle household organization. None of that shows up on bank statements, but all of it has value. It does have value, but somehow my financial contribution doesn't. Your financial contribution is your job. It's what you're supposed to do as a partner. She turned to face me. My emotional contribution is above and beyond. It deserves compensation. The circular logic was breathtaking. Her contributions were valuable and deserved payment. My contributions were basic expectations that deserved nothing. So let me clarify your position, I said, standing to face her. I should pay for everything we need to live, plus everything you want to have, while you pay for nothing we share, but keep everything you earn. And if I object to this arrangement, I'm financially exploiting you. You're oversimplifying again. Actually, I think I'm simplifying it perfectly. I picked up her folder and flipped through it again. This isn't a relationship proposal. It's a business arrangement where I'm the ATM and you're the withdrawal. Her face flushed. How dare you reduce this to dash? To what it actually is? I closed the folder and set it down firmly. You want to talk about exploitation? Let's talk about a system where one person assumes all financial risk while the other assumes none. Where one person's work funds two people's lives while the other person's work funds one person's desires. That's not dash. That's exactly what this is. I gestured at her papers. You've dressed up dependency as independence and called it feminism. But strip away the buzzwords, and you're asking me to financially support your entire lifestyle while you build personal wealth. She was quiet for a moment, then lifted her chin defiantly. Maybe that's exactly what I'm asking for. Maybe it's time men paid for the centuries of free labor women have provided. And maybe it's time to find out what happens when this particular man stops providing free labor entirely. Her expression shifted, uncertainty creeping in. What's that supposed to mean? It means you're right about one thing. Relationships do need to evolve. And evolution works both ways. Over the next week, she acted like her proposal was already approved. She stopped contributing to groceries, claiming she was transitioning to the new system. When I questioned it, she said I was resisting progress and making this harder than it needs to be. Meanwhile, I started paying attention to things I'd previously ignored. Thursday morning, I noticed a credit card statement on her desk, one I didn't know existed. While she was in the shower, I took a quick photo. Later that day, I logged into our shared banking and discovered 3 accounts she'd opened without mentioning them, all in her name only. The picture became clearer as I dug deeper. She wasn't just planning to keep her salary. She'd been quietly separating her finances for months. The weekend retreat wasn't her awakening. It was her confirmation. Friday evening, she came home with shopping bags from Nordstrom. New work clothes, she announced cheerfully. Professional image is crucial for advancement. I looked at the bags. How much? That's not your concern anymore, remember? My appearance, my investment. She headed toward the bedroom to show off her purchases. That night, while she slept, I went through her laptop. I know it sounds invasive, but when someone's demanding access to your entire paycheck while hiding their own finances, privacy becomes a luxury you can't afford. What I found was enlightening. She'd been active in online forums with names like Financial Feminists and Leveling Up Ladies for 6 months. The discussions weren't about equality. They were about extraction. Women sharing strategies for getting men to pay for everything while building personal wealth. Success stories about convincing boyfriends and husbands to fund their glow-ups and soft life lifestyles. One thread caught my attention. How I got him to pay everything while I invest my whole salary. Update. The poster described implementing a gradual strategy. First, convince him that her beauty expenses were relationship investments. Then frame shared expenses as his responsibility since he makes more. Finally, present it as feminism so he can't argue without looking like a misogynist. The replies were congratulatory. Women celebrating financial arrangements that would make gold diggers blush, all justified as correcting historical imbalances. But the real discovery was in her private messages. Girl, he's still resisting, but I think I can wear him down. She'd written to someone called Queen of Leveling. He's got that provider mentality. Just need to flip it from traditional to feminist framing. How's the long-term plan looking? Came the reply. Perfect. Once I get him paying everything, I can save my entire salary for 2 years, then reassess the relationship. If he's still useful, great. If not, I'll have enough saved to upgrade. Upgrade? Like I was a phone plan. I screenshotted everything, then closed the laptop and sat in the dark for a while. She wasn't trying to fix our relationship. She was trying to optimize her exit strategy. The emotional labor speech, the redistribution demands, even the feminist awakening. All of it was performance designed to extract maximum financial benefit while minimizing her investment. Saturday morning, she brought it up again over coffee. Have you thought more about implementing our new arrangement? She asked, using that fake casual tone people use when they're pretending something isn't an ultimatum. I looked up from my phone where I'd been reviewing screenshots of her messages. I've been thinking about a lot of things. Good. I knew you'd come around once you processed it properly. She smiled like she was praising a child who'd finally learned to tie his shoes. I've already started mentally budgeting my salary for investment purposes. Investment purposes? I set my phone down. Tell me more about that. Well, I'm thinking real estate might be smart. Building equity in properties that appreciate over time. She was warming up to the topic, probably rehearsing conversations she'd had online. Maybe some index funds for diversification. Building wealth for our future together. Of course. But her eyes shifted slightly when she said it. I nodded thoughtfully. You know, I've been doing some research too. Research about modern relationship dynamics. Financial arrangements. What successful couples actually do versus what they say they do. I picked up my coffee, keeping my tone conversational. Very educational. She looked pleased. See? Once you start learning about equitable partnerships, it makes perfect sense. It does make sense. Women sharing strategies for financial optimization. Men learning about their role as providers in evolved relationships. I watched her face carefully. The online communities are particularly insightful. Something flickered across her expression. Online communities? Forums where women discuss relationship evolution. Success stories about transitioning to more balanced arrangements. I smiled. You'd probably find them interesting if you haven't already. I might check them out sometime, she said carefully. You should. There's one thread about a woman who got her husband to pay all expenses while she invested her full salary. Really inspiring story about long-term planning and financial independence. Her coffee cup stopped halfway to her mouth. That sounds strategic. Very strategic. Especially the part about reassessing the relationship once she'd saved enough to upgrade. I let that word hang in the air between us. The silence stretched until she set her cup down with a slight rattle. I don't know what you're implying. I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts about modern relationship trends. I leaned back in my chair. Though it does raise interesting questions about motivation versus outcome. What kind of questions? Like whether someone advocating for emotional recognition actually wants emotional connection, or if they want financial extraction disguised as feminist progress. I kept my voice level. Whether redistribution means equality or just redistribution in one direction. Her face was getting that defensive set to it. You're being paranoid. Am I? Let's say hypothetically someone spends months in forums learning extraction strategies, opens secret accounts, starts separating finances, then presents their partner with a take-it-or-leave-it redistribution plan. I paused. Would that seem like relationship evolution or relationship exit planning? That's a ridiculous hypothetical. Is it? Because it would be pretty smart actually. Get someone else to fund your entire lifestyle while you build enough savings to leave comfortably. Frame it as feminism so they can't object without looking oppressive. Even get them to feel guilty about their natural resistance to being financially exploited. She stood up abruptly. I don't like what you're insinuating. I'm not insinuating anything. I'm admiring the strategy. I stayed seated, looking up at her. It's actually brilliant if you think about it. Why work toward shared goals when you can work toward personal goals funded by someone else's shared commitment? That's not what I'm doing, isn't it? Secret accounts, hidden spending, online communities teaching financial extraction, and a partner who's supposed to fund it all while having no say in how you spend your money. I shrugged. If it looks like extraction and sounds like extraction, you went through my computer. It wasn't a question. I went through our shared financial situation and found some interesting discrepancies. I stood up now, matching her energy. Turns out when someone demands access to all your money while hiding their own, you tend to notice patterns. Her face cycled through several emotions. Anger, fear, calculation. You have no right to invade my privacy. Privacy about what exactly? Your plan to financially drain me while building your exit fund. I stepped closer. Your conversations about using me as a provider while you reassess our relationship? It's not like that. It's exactly like that. The only question is whether you thought I was too stupid to figure it out or too weak to do anything about it. I picked up my phone. Either way, you were wrong. She was quiet for a long moment, probably calculating her next move. When she spoke, her voice had that manipulative softness again. Look, maybe I got carried away with some online discussions, but my feelings about our relationship are real. I do feel undervalued. I do want things to be more equitable between us. More equitable. I almost laughed. You want me to pay for everything while you save everything and call it equitable. I want recognition for my contributions. You want payment for your contributions while my contributions become obligations. I shook my head. That's not recognition. That's employment. Maybe that's what modern relationships look like. Maybe it is. And maybe modern men need to start recognizing when they're being hired instead of loved. After our confrontation, she switched tactics. Instead of angry denials, she went full victim mode. I was violating her trust by checking our finances. I was intimidating her with my questions. I was trying to control her by not immediately accepting her redistribution plan. Monday morning, she cornered me before work. I've been thinking about what you said, she started, using her wounded voice. Maybe I did get influenced by those online groups. Maybe I presented things wrong. I was putting on my tie, watching her in the mirror. Presented things wrong how? The way I framed the financial arrangement. It wasn't supposed to sound like I was taking advantage. She moved closer, putting her hand on my arm. I love you. I want this to work between us. By this, you mean the arrangement where I pay for everything while you build personal wealth. I mean us finding a balance that works for both of us. Her voice was getting that pleading quality. Look, forget the formal proposal. Forget the phases and charts. Let's just try something simple. I turned to face her. Simple how? You handle the big expenses, mortgage, utilities, insurance. I'll handle groceries and smaller things. We can split everything else based on what makes sense. She was looking up at me with those big eyes she used when she wanted something expensive. And your salary? I'll contribute fairly. Maybe not everything, but a reasonable amount. She squeezed my arm. I just want to feel like I have some financial independence, you know? The manipulation was smoother now, but it was still manipulation. She learned that demanding everything got resistance, so now she was negotiating for most of it while making it sound reasonable. Financial independence funded by my financial dependence. That's not how I see it. How do you see it? I see it as partnership. You're better at handling big financial responsibilities. I'm better at managing day-to-day things and building savings. She was back to her rehearsed talking points, just with softer delivery. I finished with my tie and grabbed my jacket. I need to think about it. Of course. Take your time. She kissed my cheek. I know we can figure this out together. But I'd already figured it out. She wasn't backing down. She was just changing her approach. The end goal was the same. Maximum extraction, minimum contribution, with enough emotional manipulation to make me feel guilty for resisting. That afternoon, I called my brother. He's a divorce attorney, and while I wasn't ready for that conversation yet, I needed to understand my options. Financial infidelity, he said after I explained the situation. Secret accounts, hidden spending, deceptive financial planning. It's grounds for divorce in most states if it comes to that. I'm not there yet. I know, but you need to protect yourself while you figure out what you want to do. His voice was serious. Document everything. Every account, every expenditure, every conversation about money. If she's planning an exit strategy, you need an exit strategy too. What about the house? Whose name is on the deed? Mine. I bought it before we got married. Good. What about joint accounts? 2 checking accounts and 1 savings. I can move money out of those without her signature, right? Legally, yes. But do it carefully. Don't clean them out completely. That looks vindictive. Just protect what you need to protect. After work, I stopped by the bank, opened a new account in my name only and transferred most of our joint savings, leaving enough to cover normal monthly expenses. Then I went to see a financial advisor about protecting my retirement accounts and investment portfolios. By Thursday, I had a clearer picture of our financial situation and my legal position. More importantly, I had a plan. Friday evening, she brought up the money conversation again. We were having dinner at home. Takeout from that Thai place she loves, which I paid for, naturally. Have you thought more about our financial discussion? She asked between bites of pad thai. I have actually. I set down my fork. I've been thinking about risk assessment. Risk assessment? You mentioned that women take all the risks in relationships. I wanted to understand what that means practically. I leaned back in my chair. So I've been calculating actual risk distribution in our relationship. She looked interested but cautious. What did you find? Well, financial risk is mostly mine. House is in my name, but you benefit from the equity growth. Most joint debts are secured by my income and assets. If we split up tomorrow, you'd walk away with minimal financial obligation, but significant accumulated benefit. That's not risk. That's just how things worked out. Is it? Because emotional risk seems pretty evenly distributed. We both invested time and feelings. We both have social consequences if things fail. But financial risk? That's about 90-10 in my direction. She was getting that look again, the one she got when conversations weren't going according to her script. Where are you going with this? I'm going toward your original point about women taking risks. You were right. Someone in this relationship is taking disproportionate risk. But it's not who you think it is. I reached for my water glass. So I've been developing a risk reduction strategy. What kind of strategy? The kind that addresses actual risk instead of perceived victimhood. I met her eyes directly. See, you want to eliminate your financial risks by making me responsible for all shared expenses. That's smart self-preservation. It's not about self-preservation. It's about fairness. Sure it is. You want fairness that eliminates your risks while increasing mine. I smiled. But here's the thing about risk management. It works both ways. Meaning what? Meaning if you want to eliminate your risks by restructuring our relationship, I can eliminate mine the same way. I let that settle between us. After all, the best way to avoid financial risk in a relationship is to not be in one. Her face went pale. You're threatening divorce? I'm not threatening anything. I'm discussing risk management using your framework. I kept my tone conversational. You identified that someone in this relationship bears disproportionate risk and proposed eliminating that imbalance by shifting more risk to me. That's not what I proposed, isn't it? You want me to assume all financial obligations while you assume none. That increases my risk and eliminates yours. I shrugged. I'm just pointing out that there are other ways to eliminate risk imbalance. She was quiet for several moments, processing. When she spoke, her voice was smaller. So what are you saying exactly? I'm saying that if you want to restructure this relationship around risk elimination, I'm open to that conversation. But restructuring works in both directions. I stood up and started clearing dishes. You can eliminate your risks by making me responsible for everything, or I can eliminate my risks by making myself responsible for nothing. You can't just threaten to leave every time we discuss improving our relationship. I'm not threatening to leave. I'm explaining that improvement is subjective. I rinsed my plate and put it in the dishwasher. What you call improvement, I call exploitation. What I might call improvement, you'd probably call abandonment. She followed me to the kitchen. This doesn't have to be adversarial. We're supposed to be on the same team. Are we? Because team members usually work toward shared goals with shared sacrifice. What you're proposing sounds more like you want a sponsor than a teammate. That's not fair. Fair. I turned to face her. You want to talk about fair? Fair is contributing proportionally to shared expenses. Fair is building wealth together instead of individually. Fair is making decisions together instead of presenting ultimatums. I never presented an ultimatum. You told me this was happening whether I liked it or not. You started implementing your plan before I agreed to it. You opened secret accounts and made unilateral financial decisions. I dried my hands on the kitchen towel. What would you call that? She didn't answer. Here's what I call it: preparation for exit. Which is fine, if that's what you want. But if you're preparing to leave, don't expect me to finance your departure. The weekend after our kitchen conversation, she announced she was going to another empowerment retreat. Just a quick weekend to get some clarity, she said, packing her overnight bag. I think some space will help us both process everything. I watched her fold clothes carefully into her suitcase. Clarity about what? About how to move forward. About what we both really want from this relationship. She was using her therapeutic voice again, like she was the reasonable one trying to save us from my unreasonable resistance. And you need a weekend retreat to figure that out? I need perspective from people who understand relationship dynamics without being emotionally involved. She zipped up her bag. Maybe you should do some thinking too while I'm gone. I'll definitely do some thinking. She kissed me goodbye like everything was normal, like she hadn't spent weeks trying to restructure our marriage into her personal ATM arrangement. The moment her car pulled out of the driveway, I got to work. First call was to my brother. It's happening. She's gone until Sunday night. You sure about this? She opened secret accounts and planned her exit strategy while demanding I fund it. Yeah, I'm sure. Second call was to a moving company. They could have a truck here in 4 hours. I'd been planning this for 2 weeks, mapping out exactly what was mine, what was ours, and what she could keep. My clothes, my electronics, my books, my tools, everything that belonged to me before marriage or that I'd bought with my money. The furniture could stay. The kitchen appliances could stay. I wasn't petty enough to strip the place bare, but I wasn't generous enough to leave myself vulnerable either. The movers arrived at noon. 3 hours later, my personal belongings were in a storage unit across town. The house looked lived in, but noticeably different, like someone had moved out, which someone had. Next stop was the bank. I closed our joint credit cards and removed her access to the joint checking account, leaving enough to cover 1 month of household expenses. Her personal accounts stayed untouched. I wasn't stealing from her, just protecting myself from her. Then came the paperwork. I'd prepared everything in advance. Change of address forms, utility transfers, insurance modifications. By 6 p.m., the house was officially my responsibility alone, which it always had been anyway. The final step was the most important. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and wrote her a letter. By the time you read this, I'll have implemented the risk removal strategy we discussed. You wanted to eliminate your financial risks by restructuring our relationship. I've eliminated mine by ending it. You spoke about women taking all the risks while men just show up and pay bills. You were right. I was showing up and paying bills while you planned your exit and demanded I fund it. That seemed like a poor risk distribution on my part. So I've corrected it. The house is mine, as it always was. The utilities are in my name. The joint accounts are closed. You have your secret accounts and your saved money. The independence you were building while pretending we were building something together. This isn't punishment. It's just a man who stopped showing up to pay bills he was never really appreciated for paying. Your clothes are in the closet. Your car is in the garage. Your personal belongings are untouched. But your access to my financial resources ended the moment you decided to see me as a provider rather than a partner. I hope you find the equality you were looking for. Turns out it's expensive. I printed it, left it on the kitchen counter where she'd see it immediately, then packed an overnight bag. Sunday evening, I checked into a hotel across town and waited. My phone started ringing around 9 p.m. I didn't answer. She called 17 times Sunday night. Monday morning brought text messages. We need to talk. This is insane. You can't just disappear. I'm coming to your office. I blocked her number and had hotel security escort her out when she showed up at my workplace that afternoon. Wednesday, she tried a different approach. A long email explaining how I'd misunderstood everything, and she never meant for things to get this extreme. She wanted to work things out like adults and find a compromise that works for everyone. I deleted it without responding. Friday brought the desperation phase. She somehow got my brother's number and called him crying about how I was being unreasonable and throwing away 8 years over a misunderstanding. He texted me afterward. She says you abandoned her without warning. Wants me to convince you to come home and discuss things rationally. I texted back. Tell her I implemented her risk management strategy. She should be celebrating her independence. 2 weeks later, she found me at a coffee shop near my office. She looked tired, stressed, and significantly less confident than the woman who'd presented me with redistribution charts. Please, she said, sitting down across from me without invitation. Can we just talk for 5 minutes? I looked at my watch. You have 5 minutes. I was wrong. About the money, about the arrangement, about all of it. Her voice was shaky. I got caught up in those online groups and lost perspective. I never wanted this to happen. What exactly is this? You leaving? Me having to handle everything alone. She was wrapping her hands around her coffee cup like it was an anchor. The mortgage payment alone is more than half my salary. I had no idea how expensive everything was. Expensive how? The utilities, the insurance, the maintenance, everything. She looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. I thought I understood our finances, but I only understood my part. Your part being spending money while someone else earned it. That's not fair, isn't it? You demanded independence funded by dependence. Now you have actual independence. How's it working out? She was quiet for a moment. I can't afford the house. So sell it. It's not mine to sell. No, it's not. I checked my watch again. 3 minutes left. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry I got greedy. I'm sorry I listened to those women online. I'm sorry I tried to manipulate you. The words were rushing out now. But we can fix this. We can go back to how things were. How things were. You mean when you were secretly planning to use me as a financial stepping stone while building your exit fund? I shook my head. There's no going back from that level of deception. I wasn't planning to leave you. You were planning to reassess me once you'd saved enough to upgrade. I have screenshots of your conversations. Her face crumpled. People say things online they don't really mean. People reveal things online they're too smart to say out loud. I stood up. Time's up. Wait, please. She grabbed my arm. What am I supposed to do? I can't handle all this financial responsibility alone. I looked down at her hand on my sleeve, then back at her face. You wanted to eliminate the patriarchal system where women depend on men financially. Congratulations. You succeeded. That's not what I wanted. It's exactly what you wanted. You just thought you could have independence without responsibility. I gently removed her hand from my arm. Turns out real independence means paying your own bills. But I can't afford to live the lifestyle we had. Then don't. Live within your means instead of within mine. I picked up my coffee. You taught me an important lesson about risk management. I'm returning the favor. This isn't a lesson, it's abandonment. This is consequences. You wanted to restructure our relationship around your financial benefit. I restructured it around my financial protection. I started walking toward the door. You should thank me, actually. Thank you for showing you what real equality looks like. No unpaid emotional labor from me. No patriarchal oppression. No financial dependence. I paused at the door. Just you, your independence, and your bills. 6 months later, I heard through mutual friends that she'd moved back in with her parents and was dating someone new, a guy who worked 2 jobs to afford the lifestyle she expected. Me? I bought a smaller place, invested the difference, and started dating someone who understood that partnership meant shared contribution, not creative extraction. The house sold eventually. She tried to claim half the proceeds, but my lawyer shut that down quickly. Turns out when someone opens secret accounts and plans financial manipulation, they lose credibility in court. I never did find out if she learned anything from the experience. But I learned something important. When someone shows you they see you as a provider rather than a partner, believe them the first time. And if they want to eliminate their risks by making you responsible for everything, eliminate yours by making yourself responsible for nothing. It's called equality.